It has been raining across mid-Missouri all day. Here's a look at our live Doppler radar. You can see for yourself where the rain is coming down. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jim Reek.
And I'm Brittany Pieper. Let's send it straight over to Kenton in the First Alert Weather Center to see how much longer we should expect this rain to last.
Brittany and Jim, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Has been a wet day. It was expected to be certainly a lot of rain across the area. Right now, looking at our live Doppler radar, you can see that there is an end in sight. Sedalia, Marshall, all seeing clear, well, not clear skies, cloud skies, but we're not seeing any more rain for that area. It's almost to the edge of Boone County, and you can see at least lighter rain down into Cole County and towards Osage Beach as well. This is actually an hour time lapse of this system, so you can see it is starting to slowly wind down. How much rain have we seen so far in the past 48 hours? This is from Monday and as of 4 p.m. today. Almost 4 inches in Columbia and Jefferson City, just over that in Versailles, over 5 inches at Lake Ozark, Sedalia about 3 inches and 3/4, and then Rolla seeing over 5 inches as well. Because of this, of course, we do have some aerial flood warnings in effect across the area. This is going for a lot of the viewing area, as you can see, and this is going through this evening until about 10 o'clock this evening as rain finally starts to wind down. I'm going to have the latest track of this and, of course, what you can expect in the next 8 days coming up later in the show.
Kenton, thank you very much. Happening right now, concerns about flooding as the rain continues to fall. One warning is for the Morrow River in Jefferson City. KOMU 8's Jasmine Dell joins us live in the capital city to show us what is happening right now.
I'm standing off to the side of the Morrow River where Jefferson City has seen to about 3 to 4 inches of rain today. Now, the river is expected to reach a flood level tomorrow. We're told once the river hits 18 inches, Benar and Loesch roads will close, and as always, you'll want to avoid the flooded roads as you may have to find another route if you're out and about tonight. And like I said, there has been a lot of runoff into this river today. Now, I didn't see, anything bad as far as the roads right now, but tomorrow it does look like, there could be possible flooded roads. Reporting live in Jefferson City, Jasmine Dell, KOMU 8 News.
A Columbia man is filing a wrongful death suit against the driver of a car that killed his wife and son in a crash in September. Sophia Mosby hit the car carrying Ping Gui and son Jeffrey Zhang at the intersection of Smith Drive and Scott Boulevard on September 19th. Zhang's lawyers said they cannot comment on the pending case. The young boy's elementary school principal says the school is raising donations for the family and plans to build a bench in honor of his death. An hour-long fire destroyed the roof of a home in West Columbia this morning. The Columbia Fire Department responded to a 5:45 a.m. call on Samantha Court. Homeowners said the fire was caused by a lightning strike. CFD says within 10 minutes on the scene, what started as an attic fire became a full flame on the roof after the blaze traveled through a vent. The fire was put out just before 7 a.m. and no one was hurt.
Columbia neighborhood watch leaders want you to be on alert. Police released a report last week about an increase in residential burglaries. There have been 550 burglary investigations this year. In nearly half the cases, the burglar didn't have to break in. A Columbia resident says it's up to neighbors to look out for each other.
Maybe not in the rain, but any time of the day or evening, you see people out walking, and I think that really helps to keep people observant of what's going on. And we also have neighborhood organizations where people get to know each other, and so I think when you know each other, you're more apt to know what to look for. So I think it's really a great program. I think we need it in Columbia.
About 50% of this year's burglaries happened in South Columbia. The Neighborhood Watch president says about 3,000 residents take part, and interest seems to peak when there's an uptick in crime.
A new poll shows 60% of Missouri voters disagreed with the protesters' actions last week on the MU campus. KOMU 8's Connor Smith is in the studio to give us a breakdown of the numbers.
The poll surveyed Missouri voters across the state about last week's protest. The results showed a radical divide amongst Missourians. When asked, quote, do you agree or disagree with the student protesters' message about racial inequality at MU, 23% of white voters agreed, compared to 53% of African Americans. One MU student says communication is important to understand different opinions.
And I've tried to talk to protesters and see their side of the issue. I feel like a lot of people these days are very closed-minded to new ideas or closed-minded to things that are outside of their beliefs. And I think the way we can grow and change is by being more open-minded to those.
Another student told me he thinks people just need to learn more about the roots behind the protesters' movement.
Columbia law enforcement is taking advantage of special training this week. The International Association of Police Chiefs is holding a 3-day training program. MUPD and Columbia Police have several officers taking part.
What's been happening lately in Columbia, you know, the protests and things of that nature, it's important for someone like me to have those skills in my pocket to be able to handle them right then and there if a supervisor's not available.
The messages that you send to the officers that you're leading is going to ultimately translate into behavior, into actions, into performance on the street.
The police training continues through Thursday.
People in Jefferson City could soon pay less for trash. They'll discuss the possible price decrease tonight at an open house. The proposal would reduce the average price per citizen for trash by about 19% per month. Businesses will still have a bit more money in their pockets. They could see a decrease of 38 to 42%. Currently, it costs a little more than $18 a month for the average person in Jefferson City. That's more than the $15 people in Columbia spend per month and $17 a month in Fulton. But if the proposal passes, the cost people in Jefferson City pay will drop to about $14.65.
The fact that the rates went down so substantially for the same level of service and even a little bit better service. So I think it's a win-win for everybody, because typically what people want to know, bottom line, what is this going to cost them?
Chargin says the price drop is because of improved efficiency from the group in charge of the trash carts. She says the council could decide to vote on the proposal as early as its next meeting on December 8th.
In national news, 51 people were arrested after protesters shut down I-94 in Minneapolis for more than 2 hours last night. This after an officer-involved shooting. The victim, Jamar Clark, was shot by police Sunday morning. Family members say he was taken off life support last night. The officers were responding to a domestic violence call where Clark was a suspect. Police say Clark interfered with paramedics and got in a fight with them. The officers were not wearing body cameras, and the dash cam video has not been made public. A Georgia man says he took a handgun on a recent commercial flight from Atlanta to Chicago by mistake. Blake Alford says he forgot he had the gun in his carry-on bag when he went through security. He says he didn't realize his mistake until he got to his hotel in Chicago. Alford says he checked the weapon and ammo on his return flight to Atlanta.
With ISIS now vowing to attack on American soil, NBC's Peter Alexander tells us what new security measures are being taken across the country.
Arriving in the Philippines overnight, President Obama's facing a serious test: how to respond to ISIS. That new propaganda video from the world's most brutal terror group warning the U.S. is next. Like we hit France and Paris, this fighter says, we will strike America at its center in Washington. The nation's capital on high alert, with members of Congress told to remain vigilant.
I don't want to make everybody nervous, but I feel the same way I felt before 9/11, that something very well could happen here.
Ramped up security in New York, police there for the first time deploying a new counterterrorism unit.
Some of what we have to also be constantly focused on is not only significant areas such as the Times Square or many of the tourist attractions, our stadiums, our major events, but the soft targets.
Also deploying overseas, this carrier group from Norfolk en route to the Mediterranean, previously planned, but its focus now ISIS. U.S. intelligence officials acknowledged last week's vicious attacks demonstrate ISIS's advanced capabilities and a battlefield that's expanded beyond its Middle East borders.
Well, I would anticipate that this is not the only operation that ISIL has in the pipeline.
Counterterrorism officials tell NBC News that ISIS recently launched a 24-hour help desk manned by a half-dozen senior operatives, offering tech support to would-be terrorists on how to encrypt messages. Defying growing calls for stronger U.S. military force in Syria, some from within his own party, the president is vowing to stick with his strategy, at times sounding defensive.
Folks want to pop off and have opinions about what they think they would do. Present a specific plan.
If Parisians are rattled but resilient, many Americans are anxious that the U.S. remains an appealing target for terror.
The scariest thing about stuff like this is, what can you do to stop these guys?
The political fight against ISIS is now turning into a political fight over Syrian refugees, with at least 26 governors vowing to block Syrian refugees from entering their states. President Obama still vows to stand by his plan to settle 10,000 refugees in the U.S.
During his talks with the Australian Prime Minister today, President Obama says he discussed the need to pressure ISIS as well as reach out to Muslim communities. The president also talked about the need to settle disputes over land in the South China Sea peacefully. Australia's Prime Minister says he'll continue to support the U.S. and other allies in the fight against ISIS. French police today released a video of an overnight raid on a suspected Islamist militant following the Paris attacks. The video shows heavily armed officers entering a home and taking electronics, DVD cases, and documents. So far, French police have arrested more than 20 people and confiscated weapons, including rocket launchers.
NATO Secretary General today announced NATO supports renewed efforts to find a political solution to the Syrian crisis. He also welcomed Russia's involvement, but repeated what U.S. leaders have said, that the Russian air campaign has bombed U.S.-supported rebels as much as it has ISIS.
New medication has shown to reduce HIV transmission, but there is a problem. We'll explain later in Your Health.
And according to a survey, most people do not know when to take antibiotics. We'll have expert advice.
And you're looking live over the toll bridge at the Lake of the Ozarks on this Tuesday afternoon. It's dark, it's rainy, it's 5:10. This is KOMU 8 News, first at 5. Coverage you can count on.
Next Wheel of Fortune celebrates the